Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about the Survivor players that were banned from attending the live post-game reunion. Once upon a time, Survivor used to gather all of the players together for a live finale. Jeff unpacked the game with the players live on TV, and sometimes Rosie O'Donnell was there. Nowadays, in the new era, the reunion is on Island right after the final tribal votes are read. The finalists are still all stinky, and the pre-mergers are nowhere to be found. But from 2000 to 2019, live reunions with the entire cast in New York or LA were the norm, and each member of the cast was given $10,000 for their appearance. And for 13 years, everyone attended. Winners, losers, Leaf, the gang's all here. But in 2013, Survivor banned one player from attending the live reunion, and between then and now, an additional 3 players were banned from coming to their season's reunion for one reason or another. So today, I thought it would be interesting to take a look at which players were prohibited from attending the reunion and why. We'll be going in chronological order, and along the way, I'll also bring up the other 5 players who voluntarily did not attend their season's reunion. So get a shoulder rub, say fuck it, and join me as we take a look at the Survivor players who were banned from attending the live reunion. The first player in Survivor history to be banned from attending the live reunion was Brandon Hance. In Survivor, Caramoan. For 13 years, no one had been banned from a reunion, and there were some people who probably should have been. But for Caramoan's reunion, Survivor prohibited Brandon from attending for the very first time. I think it's fair to say that Brandon was not in the appropriate headspace to play Survivor either time he played, but especially in his second time in Caramoan. In the pre-merge of Caramoan, Brandon and Philip nearly came to blows over, I don't remember who has the more sparkling personality. Brandon was unstable, Philip egged him on, and on day 13, Brandon was basically removed from the game in an impromptu vocal vote. It was later decided that Brandon and Philip in the same room together on live TV was a bad idea. So Brandon was officially prohibited from attending the Caramoan reunion. Put on your tinfoil hats, but I think this is why this reunion is so weird. They really wanted to hide the fact that, for the first time, a player wasn't in attendance at the live reunion. So we spent most of this reunion talking to everyone except the players who were actually on the season. And the pre-jurors were forced to quietly sit in the audience for the first and only time to further obscure Brandon's absence. This would be upsetting if not for the fact that Corinne is banished to pre-jury audience irrelevance. She's so mad. Sorry, Corinne. Even Sugar got to sit on stage at her flop season reunion. It's worth noting that Brenda was also not at this reunion because she was pregnant, so this reunion looks pitifully small, with only 10 players on stage. I think Survivor prided itself on always having all the players in attendance, but Brandon's absence opened the door to future reunion banishments. Still, something positive did come out of all of this. This whole saga with Brandon was probably the straw that broke the camel's back for CBS when it comes to the Hance family, and none of them ever appeared on a CBS reality show ever again. So, actually, I'd like to extend a thank you to Brandon. Any ideas? A fruit basket? Maybe a shoulder rub. He seems to like those. The next person banned from attending the live reunion was Vitus in Survivor Cambodia. Vitus, the first boot of this season, was banned from the reunion for leaving Ponderosa, a small resort where pre-jurors hang out before the jury starts, early. Obviously, CBS can't forcibly stop you from leaving if you really want to, but they typically sequester pre-mergers at Ponderosa at least until the merge starts, largely to prevent spoilers. One of the ways they convince you to stay, other than the weeks of free vacation, is by dangling the reunion appearance over your head. For a long time, there was the soft threat that if you leave Ponderosa early, you can't attend the reunion. I personally think this is totally fair, especially on an All-Stars season. Nevertheless, Vitus opted to leave Ponderosa early to go be with his 1-year-old son, in violation of his contract. Leaving Ponderosa early is not unprecedented. Players had left early before. David Sampson says he left the Cagayan Ponderosa early, and he was allowed to attend the reunion, for example. So this isn't a hard rule, and it's likely they started more strictly enforcing this in Cambodia because it was an all-star season. With the cast obviously known beforehand, fans were watching their social media for any signs of activity, which might indicate someone was voted out early. And fans noticed activity on Vitus' Instagram during filming, indicating he did not make the merge. Still, Vitus himself says he was banned not for that honest mistake, but because he left Ponderosa early. To his credit, Vitus owned that he violated his agreement and said he hoped CBS would consider, but they ultimately, and understandably, decided to make an example out of him as a warning to future players that leaving Ponderosa early does have consequences. Honestly, I don't even know what Vitus was thinking. All expenses paid vacation in paradise, or being around a screaming, pooping baby? Tough choice. Before we get to our next player who was banned from the reunion, we have another person who voluntarily opted not to attend. Stephanie Johnson in Survivor Ghost Island. It's never really officially been confirmed, but it sounds like Stephanie had a bad time on Survivor behind the scenes and opted not to attend the Ghost Island reunion voluntarily. I'm comfortable leaving it at that because she's never really spoken about this. Honestly, Stephanie, you didn't even miss much. They talked to Wendell for like a minute and a half, and then this thing was mostly just an ad for some Kevin Hart show. The very next season in Survivor David vs. Goliath, Alec was banned from the reunion. It feels like Survivor goes in waves in how tightly they wrangle players' social media activity, and in the late 30s, with websites like Inside Survivor spoiling entire casts just days after they returned from filming, it seems like they were stricter than ever. After the cast had leaked online, but before they were officially announced, Alec posted a picture on Instagram of him with fellow castaway Kara, who he went on to date for some time post-season, with the caption, "Fuck it." I think one could reasonably interpret this as him thumbing his nose at production rules prohibiting players from posting photos with one another, and the decision was made shortly thereafter to ban him from the reunion. All this drama before the season even started. Alec's pre-season reunion banning, and the fact that Inside Survivor, which leaked the cast, chose this photo of Alec in their cast leak, had most fans thinking Alec was going to be the biggest douche of all time. But he actually was really sweet and wholesome and given a really generous edit. As the season went on, fans hoped that CBS would reconsider when we learned that Alec was actually cool, but CBS stuck to their guns on this one. Overall, what Alec did was relatively harmless, but I think, like Vitus, they chose to make an example out of him after years of letting players get away with a lot of spoiler-adjacent social media posts. And then the very next season, Chris spoiled that he was coming back from the edge by posting a picture of himself skiing in the merge buff. Way to go, Chip. While we're on David vs. Goliath, Jeremy was also not in attendance at this reunion. It's likely voluntary, but there is some speculation that he was banned, like Vitus, for leaving Ponderosa early. We can only speculate, but Jeremy caught a lot of heat for his post-game press, where he made some pretty unsavory insinuations about Angelina and John. These rumors were never corroborated by anyone else, and he was extremely salty post-game, so it seems most likely to me that he just decided to sit the reunion out since no one on the cast liked him and neither did the fans. Speaking of players nobody likes, we're at our final player banned from the reunion, and the least surprising, Dan in Survivor Island of the Idols. Dan touched Kelly despite repeated warnings from her that his affection was unwanted, and he was later removed from the game at Final 6 for allegedly touching a producer when boarding a boat off camera. This controversy obviously consumed the entire season, and most fans consider it the worst season of all time for that reason, myself included. Even when the season approaches fun and interesting, the Dan stank just hovers over it like a dark, touchy cloud. Per People.com, Dan planned to address the touching incident at the live reunion, but following the penultimate episode's airing, which ends with Dan's off-camera ouster, he was informed by production that he was formally uninvited. And considering he was the first person formally ejected from the show without even the theater of a vote, this is hardly a surprise. Elizabeth, who, along with Missy, used the incident to advance her own game, voluntarily sat this reunion out, and joining her was Jack, who began dating Elizabeth after the season, probably sitting this one out with his girlfriend in solidarity. And a bit of a bummer way to end Survivor reunions as we know them. Survivor Winners at War had this weird Zoom meeting reunion thanks to COVID, and the new era has scrapped reunions in place of the after show, so it's possible that Island of the Idols is the last formal Survivor reunion we'll ever have. I don't mind the after show, but I wish we could see the pre-jurors and the final tribal losers dejected from their immediate loss and not having time off island to process it is genuinely heartbreaking. Okay, Cassidy was pretty funny. Got nothing else for ya. If this video made you happier than Brandon receiving a shoulder rub, like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.